prior to the new Delta 2 innovations, we would have had to have made these changes on the localized model. So we would have actually had to break up our workflow to get these changes on the model. And one of the benefits of actually having this localized operator or Delta system is that on a per shot basis, it means you can change the weights to suit certain scenes. And that way you still have one master model that's weighted perfectly, but you have others that are specific to certain tasks that you need executed by these characters. It just makes for a more versatile workflow. Let's actually check out the scene that has the localized reference model just to show you that these settings here are local to this reference model. So I'll actually just save this scene. Maybe I'll call it version 2, so we have something to back up on. I'll close the scene, although I don't really need to, but I'm just trying to differentiate between working on a localized model and having it update in the reference. So again, on a new build, I'm opening up a model from my browser, and I'll pull in that cloth medium res character. So if you remember, it had the problems with the armpits just underneath the arms, and in this model it still does. So going back to the Delta system, we can actually work with the Delta information in a number of ways. If I open up the reference model again in the Explorer, and I click on the Delta to open it up with its own property page, right now we can see which attributes are being recorded and which are being applied to the reference model. So it's currently taking a lot of these modifications, if they're applied, and applying them directly to the model. We can choose not to apply them if we want. In the Advanced tab, we can store the Delta internally with our reference model, or we can store it externally in a native format or a custom format. So we can store it in a binary format, and we can have that as currently loaded or offloaded. In this case, if we just keep everything internal for now, the Delta file will be written with the scene and the reference model. However, if we want to offload the file, we can set the storage to external. I can store it in the Delta format. We'll make sure we know exactly what this file does. We'll call it a weights fix map for the gun scene, and we can save off that Delta. If we actually open up the training project and look in the Deltas folder, we do have the Delta. And now what I could actually do is just offload that Delta. So that's kind of a look at how deltas work, and we can apply them in a number of different ways. We can use them to add extra clusters on texture maps, blending in different textures on characters for certain scenes. Maybe you want to add grime to a character or blood splatter to a character in one scene. You can use the deltas to layer textures on in that fashion. But that does it for working with our reference models. We're going to look at incorporating this, of course, into one of our last scenes that incorporate many of the elements that we've been covering in this training series. So we'll be adding to this reference model as we go, and we'll start looking at doing things like point caching on reference models. So I'll finish with the point caching before we move to the actual tutorial that contains the ice effects and the reference models, everything kind of working together.